As always, the gun control folks are on their worst behavior, and this past week has been no different. CBS Boston put out a piece this week updating the citizenry about the bump stock ban and surrender order that I've been covering for the last couple of months. Despite the February 1st deadline to turn in deadly bump stocks and trigger cranks, police are reporting that they have only received 4 bump stocks and 1 trigger crank. The police chief noted that people might be holding on to them because they paid a couple of $100 and aren't getting anything in return for turning them in. Of course, John Rosenthal, who heads the group Stop Handgun Violence, says that that's no excuse to hold on to items that were specifically built to commit murder. Democrats in New York have introduced a fancy pants set of 9 new gun control bills, ranging from a ramped-up bump stock ban to expanded waiting periods. This common sense legislation would institute a 10-day waiting period for background checks, require all firearms to be locked up when not in use, make it a felony to own a plastic gun, try to make it legal to sue gun shops and manufacturers for what they call negligent marketing, make it a felony to own an already illegal bump stock, and would introduce New York's version of the gun restraining order. Whew. Wow, that was a mouthful. As of February 1st, all New York residents were also required to re-register all their guns and recertify their licenses as part of the SAFE Act. Up until the SAFE Act, gun licenses were given on a lifelong basis and now require 5-year renewals, with the first deadline for pre-2013 permits being January 31st. Some 81,000 gun owners didn't follow through, so the police have said that out of the kindness of their hearts, they're not going to take any police action. Yet. But that could also just be due to the fact the state police apparently didn't think ahead and report that they are 9 to 12 months behind on actually putting any of these renewals into their database. By the way, that 81,000 in non-compliance is roughly 20% of all New York's license holders. Everytown for Gun Safety recently lobbied against suppressors by using the Chris Dorner incident as an example of what will happen if people buy suppressors without a background check. The logic of this is the Hearing Protection Act would make it so any old criminal could just roll up to a store and buy a silencer to just go and wreak havoc on law enforcement and unsuspecting citizens. Even though, according to every town's own logic, gun laws work so well that no criminal would even have a gun to attach a suppressor to. Theoretically. They also apparently forgot that Chris Dorner was an ex-LAPD officer and a reserve officer in the Navy, which 1 means that he was a trained marksman, and 2 that he was part of that elite group of people that are usually exempt from gun laws anyway. Well, that's awkward. Lucky for them, the standalone version of the Hearing Protection Act and its clause in the SHARE Act are still off in legislative limbo. In California, 2 lawmakers have proposed a bill to require a mandatory minimum of 8 hours of firearm training before being granted a carry license. The 2 lawmakers both hail from San Diego County, which has a strict good cause requirement for gun licensing. Basically, you have to convince the sheriff that you have a damn good reason for wanting a gun, or else you're leaving empty-handed. Good cause includes documented threats against the applicant, being responsible for transferring boatloads of money for work, or work in a high-risk business in which a gun would be the only means of protection. How about that Second Amendment, am I right? Meanwhile, the LA City Council has decided to set up an anonymous tip line that promises $1,000 to anyone who calls in with a tip about illegal guns. The catch is the cash is only for a successful tip, but that only requires that cops show up and find out that the gun actually exists. The gun doesn't actually have to be tied to any sort of criminal case or activity. The money will supposedly be paid out by an independent nonprofit organization. Lawmakers in New Jersey have also pre-filed a bill for the 2018 session that has 5 pages of gun definitions, and then this teeny tiny little statement. This bill revises the definition of large capacity ammunition magazine to reduce the number of rounds of ammunition a legal magazine may hold in this state. This bill would reduce the maximum capacity of a legal ammunition magazine to 5 rounds. 5 rounds. 5 rounds. So I guess instead of 10 rounders, everybody's just gonna run around with multiple 5 rounders? As if that's going to make a difference in gun crime? And I think I'm going to have to end this video on that note. That is your firearm and Second Amendment news for the week. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you really like my videos and want to help support my channel, you can do so over at Patreon or through a one-time donation with PayPal or Bitcoin. Until next time, stay safe and happy shooting.